Hi, it's Goblin Centuryman here. So it's a little while since I've done a recording, but thought I'd just show something that I put out recently. So it's called Field Guide to Random Table Design in RPGs, with the tagline, "What probability structure is right for you?" So I'm just going to do a quick kind of walkthrough as an index. Okay, so I'll start by saying that basically I'm not really going to talk about what random tables are because you probably know what they are. It's basically broadly broken down into these three, what I call three types. Type 1, which is where you consider the roll of one die, no matter how many dice you roll. Type 2, where you consider two dice, no matter how many dice you roll. And type 3, where you can consider three dice, no matter what you roll. And the first thing we talk about in this is skewing the result. So um, here you go. This is what you took a normal d6 and you want to skew it so you favor say results nearer one end of the table. What you could do is roll 2d6 and drop the lowest. And similarly, if you took a type 2 and you wanted to skew it again towards the low end, you do 3d6 and drop the lowest. The other option I consider is 3d6, well 4d6 drop the lowest to give you a type 3, which is skewed again in that direction. The other important concept talked about here is plateauing, which is where you take a table like this, which is pointy, or curved one like this, and what you do is you flatten the peak. And the way you do that is by, instead of say taking 2d6, you take 4d6 and a d8, you split the die, and the bigger that split, so if you go to a d2 plus a d10, it'll flatten it even more. That's a useful tool for flattening out your probability structure. Excuse me. Okay, and then another useful table that people know about are these sort of maze rat style tables where you take a d6 by d6 table. In reality, what that is really six d6 tables next to each other. All well and good, but again, you can. What happens if you change one of these from a d6 to say a 2d6? Suddenly, you get what looks like a tent shape rather than a flat probability structure. So like this is one 2d6 table, and what you have is six of them side by side. And if you do runs, you can sort of merge them together a bit more. And similarly, you can do the same thing with 3d6. So in this case, you've got six 3d6 tables next to each other. But again, we can do the skewing. So this is a standard 6x6 table, maze rat style, but you can skew it by, for example, taking d6 on one axis and 2d6 drop the lowest on the other axis. So suddenly you have all this end of the table is much higher probability. Again, you can do that with 2D, where you have like a type 1 on one axis and a type 2 on the other axis. So again, you've got d6 by 3d6 drop the lowest. So again, you're skewing this peak table more that way. And again, you can do it with, here you have a d6 by 3d6, but if you do d6 by 3d6, 4d6 drop the lowest, you skew it that way. And again, you can do plateauing, so instead of doing d6 on one axis, but d4 plus d8 on the other axis, and so on. Then you can get into even more interesting ideas where instead of taking d6 on one axis and 2d6 on the other, you could have 2d6 on one axis and 2d6 on the other, or 3d6 on one axis and 3d6 on the other. This is smoother and this is a bit more jagged. But again, you can mix it up. You can do skewing, so you've got 46 by 46, so you really push this peak into the corner. You can plateau, for example, double plateau by doing d4 plus d8 and d4 plus d8. Now, some of these are getting a little bit esoteric, but I think it's important to think about these things in case I don't want to put a limit on your imagination. I'll talk about some slightly more squirrely stuff, but I think I won't dwell on that. This is interesting. This is a D100 table. We use a 3D4 by 3D4. I've always wanted a bell-shaped curve for a D100, although it's a bit extreme. Again, plateauing can happen. So you can get this on Drive-Thru if you want to take a closer look. Yep, check it out. I'll have links in the thing below. Bye.